Most people picture self-sufficient animals as noise at sunrise, mud everywhere, and a long list of chores that never seem to end. That picture alone is enough to make a lot of people quietly step back and say that life isn't for me anymore. And for many seniors, that thought doesn't come from laziness, it comes from experience. They already know what constant upkeep feels like, and they're not interested in trading peace for pressure. Here's the turning point most folks never talk about. Real self-sufficiency isn't measured by how much you can produce or how busy your days look. It's measured by how well your choices support your body, your energy, and your sense of calm. The wrong animals slowly take from you. The right ones quietly give back, day after day, without asking you to rush, lift heavy, or stay on edge. In this video, we're going to gently flip the script. You'll see why some of the most popular homestead animals end up being the hardest to live with later in life, and why smaller, quieter, more forgiving animals often create far more security on half an acre than people expect. By the end, you'll know 7 animals that can provide food, improve your land, and bring peace instead of pressure, all without turning your days into a checklist of chores. And stay with me, because there's one animal near the end that almost never gets mentioned. It produces steady protein, fits into a simple routine, and asks so little of you that most people overlook it entirely, even though it may be one of the smartest choices of all. Here at Golden Garden Days, we're not chasing extremes or survival fantasies. This is a place for calm independence, thoughtful choices, and living well right where you are. If that sounds like the kind of garden life you're building, you'll feel right at home here. So let's ease into this together. Not by adding more to your plate, but by choosing animals that quietly carry their share of the load. Animal number 1, Coturnix quail. Quiet protein, zero drama. Coturnix quail are easy to overlook because they don't match the loud, busy image most people associate with raising animals. They're small, quiet, and unassuming, and for many seniors, that's exactly what makes them such a powerful choice. There's a real sense of relief in caring for an animal that doesn't interrupt your mornings or demand constant attention. No sudden noise, no chasing birds across the yard, and no anxiety about what might go wrong when your energy is low. What truly sets quail apart is how smoothly they fit into a calm daily rhythm. They thrive on consistency rather than intensity. Feeding, refreshing water, and collecting eggs becomes a simple routine that takes only a few minutes. That predictability matters deeply as life slows down. When you know exactly what a task will require, it stops feeling like a burden and starts feeling like a small, grounding ritual. From a space and efficiency standpoint, quail are remarkably practical. A modest setup can sit quietly near a shed, fence line, or shaded corner without changing the feel of your property. They don't crow, roam, or attract attention, making them ideal for smaller plots and close neighbors. Despite their size, they produce eggs steadily, often continuing even when larger birds reduce laying. That quiet reliability builds confidence in your food supply without creating extra work. Physically, quail are well suited to aging bodies. When housed in waist-high cages, there's no need to bend, kneel, or lift heavy panels. Egg collection is a simple reach, not a task you have to prepare yourself for. Daily checks are quick and manageable, and if a day runs slower than usual, the birds remain forgiving and contained. They don't escalate small delays into big problems. There's also an emotional ease that comes with quail. They don't require bonding or constant interaction, which removes the pressure some people feel when caring for animals. You can appreciate their presence and their contribution without feeling overwhelmed by responsibility. They exist quietly alongside you, offering nourishment and consistency without taking more than you're willing to give. Coturnix quail represent a different kind of self-sufficiency. They provide steady protein without noise, routine without strain, and security without spectacle. It's food security that blends into your life rather than taking it over, supporting your independence in a way that feels calm, respectful, and sustainable. Animal number 2, calm ducks, not the popular breeds. Ducks have a way of changing the atmosphere of a place, but only if you choose the right kind. When people picture ducks, they often imagine constant noise, splashing chaos, and endless cleanup. That reputation usually comes from fast-moving, high-production breeds that were never meant for a quiet, steady home. Calm ducks are different. They move slowly, stay close to the ground, and bring a sense of ease that's hard to explain until you've lived with them. The emotional value of calm ducks lies in their presence. Watching them waddle through the grass, pause to forage, or settle into the shade creates a natural slowing of the day. There's nothing rushed about them. Their pace gently invites you to match it, even if only for a few minutes. For many seniors, that grounding presence becomes as valuable as the eggs themselves. It's a reminder that productivity doesn't have to feel frantic. Most people go wrong by choosing ducks bred almost entirely for output. Those birds tend to be louder, more restless, and more demanding of space and attention. Calm, heavier breeds behave differently. They're content to stay close, forage methodically, and follow predictable patterns. That predictability removes stress. You're not constantly wondering where they are or what trouble they've found. From a practical standpoint, ducks offer several quiet advantages. They don't roost, which means no ladders, no elevated nesting boxes, and no reaching overhead. Eggs are laid in easy-to-find spots, often right where the ducks sleep, making collection straightforward and strain-free. Their foraging habits help manage pests like slugs and insects, reducing the need for bending, spraying, or constant garden patrol. While they work the ground, you can rest, observe, or move on to something else. Water care doesn't need to be complicated. Calm ducks don't require elaborate ponds to thrive. Simple, shallow setups that are easy to refresh keep things manageable and safe. With thoughtful placement, daily care stays light and predictable rather than messy or overwhelming. There's also a quiet companionship in keeping ducks that doesn't demand emotional energy. They're present without being needy. You can enjoy their company without feeling responsible for constant interaction. They contribute simply by being themselves, day after day. Calm ducks offer more than eggs or pest control. They bring rhythm to the land. They soften the edges of a busy mind and remind you that a slower way of living can still be deeply productive. In their steady movements and unhurried routines, they teach something valuable without ever trying: how to slow down and still feel secure. Animal number 3, rabbits, for soil first, meat second. Rabbits are often introduced as a meat animal, but that framing misses their quiet power entirely. For a senior-focused homestead, rabbits are less about harvesting and far more about healing the land beneath your feet. They work silently in the background, turning simple feed into one of the most gentle and effective soil builders you can have. No noise, no disruption, no urgency, just steady improvement over time. What makes rabbits truly valuable is their manure. Unlike many other animals, rabbit manure can be used directly in the garden without composting. It doesn't burn plants, doesn't smell strong, and doesn't demand extra steps. You can carry it straight from the hutch to the soil and let it do its work immediately. For aging bodies, that simplicity matters. Fewer processes mean fewer chances to feel overwhelmed or worn down. When set up thoughtfully, rabbits fit beautifully into a low-strain routine. Table-height hutches remove the need to bend or kneel. Daily care involves light movements, short check-ins, and calm handling. There's no chasing, no herding, and no lifting heavy equipment. If you choose to harvest, that decision can remain optional. Something you approach when and if it feels right, rather than a constant expectation hanging over you. Rabbits are also remarkably quiet. Their presence doesn't change the soundscape of your home or garden. This makes them ideal for people who value stillness and don't want their independence to come with constant noise. You may forget they're there at times until you notice how much richer your soil has become and how much easier your garden seems to grow. There's a deeper emotional layer to keeping rabbits this way. They allow you to contribute to your land without pushing yourself. As your soil improves, your garden becomes more forgiving, more productive, and less demanding. In that sense, rabbits give back in a way that feels mutual. As they quietly rebuild your soil, you find yourself conserving energy, moving with intention, and growing stronger in your own rhythm. Before we move on, take a gentle pause here. Let me ask you this: which of these animals has felt peaceful to you so far? There's no right answer, and there's no pressure to choose quickly. If you feel like sharing, leave a comment, and if these conversations about calm, steady living speak to you, you're always welcome to join us here for more weekly guidance. There's no race to finish anything, no finish line to cross. This is about choosing what fits the season of life you're in right now. Rabbits remind us that real progress doesn't have to be loud or fast. Sometimes it's quiet, patient, and happening right beneath the surface. Animal Form 4. Pigeons, the forgotten self-returning animal. Pigeons are rarely mentioned in modern self-sufficiency conversations, which is exactly what makes them so surprising. Many people carry old assumptions about them, often shaped by cities rather than countryside, but when kept with intention, pigeons are one of the most self-directed and respectful animals you can raise, especially on a small piece of land. They don't demand constant supervision, and they don't rely on you for every decision they make. What sets pigeons apart is their natural instinct to return home. Once they're established, they leave during the day to forage and explore, then come back on their own. There's no herding, no calling them in, and no chasing birds across the yard. That reliability removes a layer of mental strain that many other animals quietly create. You're not responsible for managing their every movement. You simply provide a safe home and they do the rest. From a senior-friendly perspective, pigeons are refreshingly low effort. Feeding is light and infrequent compared to many other animals, and water needs are simple. Because they fly, they don't trample garden beds or wander into spaces where they shouldn't be. Their habits are predictable, which means your days remain calm and uninterrupted. You're free to observe them rather than manage them. There's also something emotionally grounding about watching pigeons return at dusk. No matter where they roam, they come back to the same place every evening. That quiet consistency carries a deeper meaning, especially later in life. It's a daily reminder that home still holds value, that familiarity matters, and that independence doesn't mean being alone. Pigeons are also discreet. They don't fill the air with noise or draw attention from neighbors. Their presence blends into the rhythm of the land rather than overpowering it. For those who value peace and privacy, this makes a meaningful difference. In practical terms, pigeons can provide occasional protein and useful materials like feathers for compost or garden use, but they never force productivity. They exist on their own terms, contributing without pressure. You decide how involved you want to be, and they meet you there. Pigeons don't try to impress. They don't perform or demand. They simply live, leave, and return. In doing so, they offer a quiet lesson that becomes more important with time. Independence is strongest when it's anchored to a place that feels like home. Animal number 5, honeybees, pollination overproduction. Honeybees are often introduced with a single expectation: honey. That expectation alone is what pushes many seniors away from keeping them. The idea of heavy boxes, frequent inspections, harvesting schedules, and the pressure to produce can feel like more responsibility than reward. But when you change the purpose of bees, everything about them changes. When bees are treated as garden partners rather than honey machines, they become one of the most supportive animals you can keep. Their true value shows up quietly across your entire half-acre. Bees increase pollination in ways no amount of handwork ever could. Fruit trees set better, vegetables become fuller and more reliable, flowers grow stronger and last longer. All of this happens without you lifting a finger. While other animals require daily interaction, bees do their most important work while you're resting, sitting, or simply enjoying the garden you've built. For seniors, this kind of contribution matters deeply. A single calm hive is enough. There's no need to chase maximum honey yields or manage multiple colonies. With one well-placed hive, Inspections can be minimal and gentle. You're observing health, not forcing production. If a season feels slower, the bees don't demand more from you. They continue their work whether you're active or taking a step back. There's also something emotionally grounding about having bees nearby. Their presence brings life to the garden without intrusion. You hear them softly in the background, moving from bloom to bloom, reminding you that growth is happening even when you're not actively tending it. That sense of quiet progress can be deeply reassuring, especially during seasons when energy comes and goes. Bees also shift the way you see your role on the land. You're no longer the one doing everything. You're creating conditions for life to support itself. That mindset brings relief. Instead of managing every detail, you become a steward, setting things in motion and letting nature carry part of the load. Honey, if it comes, becomes a bonus rather than a requirement. There's no disappointment if you choose not to harvest or only take a small amount. The real reward is the stronger garden, the heavier fruit, and the feeling that your land is working with you instead of waiting on you. Honeybees offer a quiet kind of self-sufficiency. They expand your harvest, strengthen your garden, and ask very little in return. In their steady, tireless movement, they embody one of the most important lessons of later life independence. Some of the best work happens while you allow yourself to rest. Animal No. 6. Guinea fowl, only in the right way. Guinea fowl have a reputation that often scares people off, and honestly, that reputation isn't entirely undeserved when they're kept the wrong way. Treated like pets or tightly managed livestock, they can feel chaotic and overwhelming. But when you change how you think about them, guinea fowl become something else entirely. They aren't companions, and they aren't meant to be handled or fussed over. They are seasonal workers, and when given that role, they can be incredibly effective. Their greatest value is protection. Guinea fowl are relentless when it comes to pests, especially ticks. They move through grass, brush, and edges of the property with purpose, clearing areas that would otherwise require bending, spraying, or constant checking. For seniors, that matters more than most people admit. Fewer ticks mean fewer worries, fewer precautions, and more freedom to enjoy the land without always being on guard. They also serve as a natural alert system. Guinea fowl notice changes quickly. When something unfamiliar moves through the area, they respond. That awareness can bring a sense of reassurance, especially on quieter properties. You're not relying on constant vigilance yourself. The birds do the noticing for you. The key to keeping guinea fowl senior friendly is distance and intention. They do best when free-ranging with minimal interaction. You don't chase them, train them, or try to bond with them. Feeding is simple and light, often supplemental rather than constant. Handling is rare, which reduces strain on your body and avoids the emotional pressure that comes with more dependent animals. Because attachment is low, there's also less emotional weight. You're not managing personalities or routines that require daily attention. Guinea fowl exist at the edges of your life, contributing quietly and efficiently. If they disappear for part of the day, that's normal. If they return in the evening, that's enough. Their independence becomes part of their value. Noise is often cited as a downside, but when guinea fowl are kept for purpose rather than companionship, their vocal nature becomes occasional and situational rather than constant. You're not surrounded by it, you simply become aware when something changes, which is exactly what they're meant to do. Guinea fowl aren't gentle animals, and they're not meant to be, but they offer a form of protection that doesn't require your strength, speed, or constant involvement. They patrol, they notice, and they move on. In doing so, they provide safety without closeness and service without demand. They protect the land quietly without ever asking for affection in return. Animal No. 7. Dual-purpose chickens, chosen carefully. Chickens still belong on a half-acre, especially later in life, but only when they're chosen with intention rather than habit. For many people, chickens are familiar. They remind us of earlier years, family yards, or a slower time when food felt closer to home. That familiarity brings comfort, and comfort matters. A few well-chosen chickens can quietly anchor a homestead, offering reliability without demanding reinvention. Where most people go wrong is assuming more is better. Too many birds create noise, mess, expense, and constant upkeep. The wrong breeds add stress through flightiness, poor laying consistency, or high maintenance needs. What works best for seniors is the opposite approach: fewer birds, calmer temperaments, and breeds known for steady production rather than extremes. A small flock changes everything. With fewer chickens, daily care stays light and predictable. Feeding doesn't feel rushed, cleaning doesn't turn into a full project. You notice each bird without feeling responsible for managing chaos. Dual-purpose breeds, when chosen carefully, provide dependable eggs and the option of meat without forcing constant decisions or pressure. They give flexibility, not obligation. Senior-friendly setups make a meaningful difference here. Ground-level nesting boxes remove the need to reach, climb, or stretch. Simple co-op designs reduce bending and lifting. When routines are forgiving, missing a moment doesn't create problems. Chickens are resilient when they're not overcrowded, and that resilience gives you breathing room on slower days. There's also an emotional steadiness that chickens bring. Their routines mark the day: morning feeding, quiet midday scratching, evening settling. These small moments create a sense of continuity that's deeply reassuring. They don't rush you and they don't disappear. They're present, familiar, and easy to understand. Chickens don't require novelty or reinvention to be valuable. When chosen thoughtfully, they offer something rare: consistency without pressure. They fit into life rather than reshaping it. Their presence doesn't demand attention, but it rewards it in simple, tangible ways. Dual-purpose chickens, kept in moderation and with care, become more than a food source. They become part of a steady rhythm, one that feels known, manageable, and quietly supportive. Familiar, dependable, and reassuring in a way that only simple things can be. Here's the truth that rarely gets said out loud: the animals that truly support you later in life are not the ones that demand perfection. They're the ones that quietly allow for imperfect days. Days when energy is low, days when the weather turns, days when rest matters more than routine. The best animals don't punish you for slowing down. They adapt with you. That forgiveness is the real secret to long-term self-sufficiency. It's not about keeping up with a rigid system or maintaining constant output. It's about building a setup that remains steady even when you step back for a moment. When animals can tolerate missed tasks without creating stress, they stop feeling like responsibility and start feeling like support. Resilience later in life looks different than it does in younger years. It's softer, it's quieter, it's built around recovery, not endurance. The animals that fit this season are the ones that hold their ground when life shifts. They don't unravel your system if you miss a check or move a little slower. They give you space to breathe without everything falling apart. This is where many people misunderstand self-sufficiency. They think it means doing more, producing more, or staying constantly involved. In reality, it's about designing a life that continues to function with grace. A life where rest is part of the plan, not a failure of it. When your animals forgive missed days, your confidence grows. You're no longer worried about falling behind. You know your system can carry you through slower seasons. That quiet assurance is what makes independence sustainable, not constant effort, but a kind of resilience that allows you to keep going calmly and confidently year after year. When you look at everything we've covered, one thing becomes clear. On half an acre, success isn't about pushing limits or proving capability. It's about creating a life that feels steady and supportive. You don't need excess, you need enough food to feel secure, enough calm to enjoy your days, enough confidence to know that what you've built will hold even when your pace changes. The right animals don't compete with your energy, they move alongside it, they fit into your routines instead of reshaping them. When your choices respect where you are in life, self-sufficiency stops feeling like work and starts feeling like reassurance. It becomes something that carries you, not something you have to carry. As you think about your own space, Remember, this isn't a checklist to complete. It's an invitation to choose wisely and gently. The best animals aren't the ones that rush ahead, demanding more time, more strength, more attention. They're the ones that stay close, steady, and predictable, offering quiet support day after day. If one of these animals stood out to you, take a moment and ask yourself why. Which one feels like it matches your pace right now? If you'd like to share, leave a comment. These conversations help others see that there's more than one way to build a good life on the land. And if this kind of calm, thoughtful approach to gardening and self-sufficiency speaks to you, you're always welcome here. We'll keep exploring simple ways to live well, grow steadily, and feel confident in the choices we make. Until next time, move gently, choose what supports you, and remember that you're not behind. You're right where you need to be.